Hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto News. And it is that time again where Jim Cramer is saying some crazy stuff. Right now, he's saying that the bull market may return soon, but full recovery for Bitcoin is years off. Oh, and I told you guys before, right? Whenever Jim Cramer says something, do the exact opposite. A little while ago, he said, no, Ethereum is going to increase by 40%. It's going to be crazy. And I told you guys at that point as well, if he says that, this is the 29th of April, you better sell everything. But on a more real note, I actually have a couple of charts for you guys here as to what I predict is going to happen, what my trades are going to be, and what the different scenarios are. I think some very volatile times are coming in the short term, as we've got China with a very interesting ban, or at least warning pretty recently here. China warns Bitcoin is heading to zero, but the Bank of England looks on the bright side. Yeah, the Bank of England was actually very positive. The Bank of England deputy governor says the crypto crash survivors could become tomorrow's Amazon and eBays. The latest crypto slump could be decisive in determining the industry's future winners, according to Bank of England Deputy Governor John Cunliffe. To add insult to injury, Bitcoin primed for immense volatility as Chinese state media warns Bitcoin could crash to zero. Again, we've seen it multiple times from China's side, right? It's not as if this stuff is all new in any way, shape, or form. It just kind of heats the entire crypto space up every single time that there's a new announcement in this regard. Then again, we have our skeptics left and right. Here's billionaire Seth Klarman. He said, I can't see the point of crypto. Nobody needs to own it. Okay, interesting. I guess this is one of the stages of acceptance though, right? Where he is now not necessarily denying everything, saying, no, it's bad. It's more so, I don't fully understand why. And this is one of the big parts about understanding crypto. The appeal is there for a lot of people once they start to understand the use cases and how it can bring sort of ease or necessity to them. How can I explain it better? So for anybody that's new to crypto, you probably understand that it's either something you invest in purely to gain riches, or something you'd use in the future, or something that's going to be the fundamental of something that's going to be used in the future, or something that's being used right now that is made better. If you don't have any one of these things that you're looking in for, if you're, for example, already extremely wealthy, so you don't necessarily want the money from it, you can't see the application because you just fully don't understand, and you don't see it being used in the future because, well, you just think it's some crazy stuff for techies and you haven't involved yourself in it, it's kind of easy to understand it's just a scam or a fad because, once more, it's not your sector, you don't understand. What I keep sharing with people, though, is that this stuff is not going anywhere except for the freaking moon, all right? Here's, for example, Cristiano freaking Ronaldo, all right? This is crazy. It is... All right, I have the wrong shirt on. I should have actually put on this hat right here, you know, my little BNB hat. But yeah, as I stated before, this is some pretty big news. Binance signs Cristiano Ronaldo for exclusive partnership. Legendary Portuguese footballer to release multiple NFT collections on Binance. Pretty huge news from their side, you know, getting to the masses like that. And that's something that I keep sharing with you all. This crypto stuff is going to expand and expand and expand. Over on Bybit, they also have a couple of nice announcements. One of them being they entered into a settlement agreement with Ontario Securities Commission. Just nice to see, nothing too special. And then last but not least, to showcase to you guys that this stuff is expanding, Cincinnati University adopts crypto in its curriculum. Once more, you guys all know it is expanding like crazy. This stuff, it can't be stopped, right? They're teaching it to the youngins as well. All right, guys, I got to give you all a quick little side note. It is right now a freaking heat wave, all right? And it's, you know, it is at least, I'm going to say 34, if not 35 degrees inside. Why do you not put on airco? Because a lot of places were not designed with the idea that it could become this freaking hot, all right? And if you've ever worked with a MacBook before, you probably know that thing doesn't really hold up to heat well. So I have one very big freaking, I have a lot of fans actually, but this one right there behind the MacBook just spinning like a madman. Only problem is, yeah, I if I turn that on and I, you know, start talking here, you're gonna be like, you know, wanting to just shoot your ears off. So what are we expecting for Bitcoin / the entire crypto market? What's going on right now? So one thing that can be observed quite closely or quite clearly right here is our little descent over the last couple of days. I think all of you guys can also agree with me here. There's a little bit of a head and shoulder pattern with a downwards bias here that can be observed over on the 4 or 1 hour. Here's actually showcased over on the 1 hour chart with the way in which we are acting right now. However, there's a couple other cool things to add, so just make sure you watch this video all the way through as I'm going to let you guys in on what I think my next trade is going to be and where I think the crypto market is about to head. So as always, there's a couple of different scenarios that could play out, and here's how we're going to react to them. So as of this point, we've actually made a double top that you can only see over on the 1 hour. On the 4 hours, not so apparent. All we know is that we've had a little descent for the last couple of days, and right now our pretty close to a major resistance here, but really closer to this major little box or support or little demand zone for Bitcoin. And there's a couple of scenarios that could play out purely looking at this chart. It's actually a retest here of the previous bottom, which we saw, which is roughly at about $20,000 before hitting this trend line. And the moment we break it and actually close, let's say above 21,000 or so, then we're going to be going all the way back towards 22 or let's say 22.7 thousand or so. That's my first main scenario, which is going to be, again, bounce off of 20,000, break through 21, and they go all the way towards 22.7. Or the more negative scenario is if we do not hold this $20,000 level to actually break itself down pretty clearly all the way towards 19,000 or 19.1 thousand, which again is one of the closest and most important supports from before. Things are starting to get a little bit more feisty though, because a couple of hours when I was actually looking at this for my previous video, this candle here was not yet formed at about 9 o'clock on the UTC. And the reason that's so important is because right now we've made ourselves a little double top. Even though the wick is a little bit smaller, we have made ourselves a double top in terms of closing, if not a little bit higher actually. And if that higher is actually the case, then right now the most important thing to watch for is whether or not we're going to be making for ourselves one of the first higher highs or I guess higher lows in a little while. So what that could basically showcase is that we've made ourselves a little bottom right here. Of course, at this point, just a local bottom here, as we've had way lower price action last week, or even throughout the week for that matter. But I'm more so talking about the scenario being this being the bottom that we are now forming, to this being our first little top, to, for example, a small little retest just slightly below the prices which we've seen before heading over into, again, what we just described, for example, breaking through that 21,000, breaking through the EMAs that we want to break through to go all the way towards, like, let's say 22.7 thousand. However, one thing should really remain quite clear. Whenever I'm talking about this downside potential and the way in which we can fall down towards 19.1, and the moment we break 19.1, then we're most likely going to be seeing some price action towards a lot lower. Over on a weekly, I think it's actually easier to describe it to you guys. Of course, the moment that we break through our previous support from 2017 to 2018, we're most likely instantly going to fall towards the 17 point something thousand dollar mark, either the previous tops that have been basically observed a little while back in 2017 as well, or just towards the previous bottom that we formed just a couple of days ago. But if we do manage to retest, I honestly expect a pretty big bounce if we do come back down towards, like, let's say $17,000, $18,000. I do predict a very big bounce either towards the 0.5 on the Fibonacci here at about $32,000, or for Bitcoin to just pick itself up on dominance again before altcoins are going to rush and everything's going to go crazy. What I mean with that is right now, if you're asking me honestly, I don't think it's the best moment to buy altcoins. There's a couple of altcoins that I do think are pretty good, and that is XRP and Cardano. The reason for that is that they've performed really stably over the last couple of weeks here, where a lot of other coins like Polkadot and I guess Matic is a good example, even Ethereum, they've acted really irrationally. Ethereum is not the core example to give, but a Matic, for example, is a clear example. The coin has pumped like crazy over the last couple of days here. It's acting really irrationally, but it's not really the time for it. It's a general downtrend for everything basically, and in times like this where there's really bear market vibes, when people are extremely fearful of everything, you either go with altcoins that have crazy utility that's here to stay for a couple of years, that have showcased to you that they have the resilience to stick around and to not falter, so to speak, or you go for altcoins that's critical once Bitcoin has reclaimed the dominance. And the dominance we like to see is anywhere above 50%, to be honest. But one of the zones that we are watching for right now is at about 53.5%. And that would basically mean the moment that Bitcoin starts to get back up in terms of dominance, where a lot of altcoins lose their position again, is when we start buying those altcoins again. All right, but that first will mean that Bitcoin has to act up a little bit. Again, I've showcased to you guys the last couple of days that every single day, Bitcoin is just moving weird. It's like XRP and ADA are just outperforming Bitcoin like crazy. You can see, for example, just for your own here, ever since let's say about 2 weeks ago or so, since somewhere in the middle of June here, XRP has been performing just way crazier than Bitcoin. And again, these are huge margins. You can see it went from 12 to 16. It might not look like a really steep increase, but once you get the ruler out there, you can see that XRP basically outperformed Bitcoin by 30% over the last 2 weeks or so. That is pretty huge margins. That is crazy. And honestly, partially based upon that, I don't think Cardano and XRP are really bad ones to buy in this area. And honestly, if we're talking about holding instead of trading on the short term, I honestly don't think it's ever a bad idea to go into altcoins, specifically the altcoins which have or carry a lot of utility with it. I think those are always purchasable, so to speak. But if we're talking about a short-term trade, I honestly think they are way more irrational, and Bitcoin is ones that are going to be a lot easier to trade on the short term. So once more, to just quickly sum it up again, honestly, the most likely scenario is for a little bounce at $20,000 in the near term here, in the very, very short term. We can obviously bounce pretty hard from that, and then my honest first target to watch for is 21,000. And again, it depends on what confirmation we get. If we do break through 21,000, I'm looking for the upside all the way towards 22.7. which can be observed right here. And that's also going to coincide with one of our most important MAs, as it will most likely play out over the next couple of hours, but we shall see about that. I honestly do think so, though. That would be a nice little bullish crossover, as we've been under the majority of EMAs for a very long while here, as the sentiments have been rather negative, or the price action over the last couple of weeks have been rather negative. You guys have seen it. If we do manage to break towards the downside, which basically means that over the next couple of hours, we are going to lose $20,000. If that does manage to happen, and we do not get this breakthrough, we do not get the breakthrough of this critical trend line here over the next couple of hours, then I'm going to be looking for $19.1 thousand. That's honestly where I expect the price to hit in the short term. If we do not hold 19.1 thousand though, again, it basically means that we are most likely to form another little bottom here at the price which we saw about, let's say about a week ago. I don't remember the exact date of this big dip. And the moment that that dip is reached, I honestly think it's time to start going really crazy on the buys yet again, because most likely we're going to start seeing some crazy pumps because the whales are starting to get in heavily. We've already seen it throughout the last couple of weeks here, but at that point, guys, I'm most likely going to go berserk. Except for one very specific scenario, and listen to this, except for the moment that the stock market breaks down hard. And what I mean with that is, if the stock market any one of these days moves down by more than 2%, ignore everything. Ignore everything you think you know about crypto, because cryptos are going to fall that day. It's just set in stone. All right. As of this point, people are not buying Bitcoin for the pure utility. A lot of people are buying it to make profit on. And a lot of people are doing the exact same thing with these stock markets. And so if there's any announcement of inflation, if there's any announcement of interest rate, Bitcoin does follow the stock market pretty significantly. But also every single time there's a crash in these markets, Bitcoin follows along. And that means the entire crypto follows along, the entire crypto market cap. And the only thing that is kind of interesting is the resilience from some specific altcoins. And that is, again, easily observed with XRP's performance over the last couple of weeks. It honestly has been safer, and ADA the same. It's been safer to hold XRP and ADA than it has been to hold Bitcoin, which is really fun to watch. But honestly, the moment that the stock market crashes about a couple percent a day, it's honestly really, really logical for Bitcoin to fall a little bit further throughout that little period. And I think there's a couple of arbitrage traders that are actually watching this really carefully, right? The moment that the S&P is showcasing just the numbers of negativity, that they just short Bitcoin as well on the short term, it might be something to actually look into. I've never really done that before. We've looked at the CME gap, and we've looked at the historical performances for the S&P, but I've never actually looked at it over the first couple of hours, for example. I guess it's hard to say whether or not there's a little delay in the Bitcoin price, or for example, if the S&P the first 2 hours have been negative, where Bitcoin the third hour is still negative, for example, or if the correlation is just on the exact minute itself. So that means if the S&P is negative on the first 2 hours, then Bitcoin is also negative on the first 2 hours. And if the S&P turns positive on the third hour, then Bitcoin follows along too. Or if there's some lag in there, I don't know about that. But let me just say it like this. If the stock market does manage to break down, right now it's been a little bit, I'm going to say, sideways with a negative bias. It honestly could be that our bottom, that a lot of people are calling out for 17.5 thousand, and that, what I want to say is, even if we do keep the bigger long-term halving chart in mind, I think the worst case that this calls out for is about $11,000 or so. You can see, depending on exactly when we start to bottom out. But I think a lot of things can change depending on how the stock market moves. I mean, honestly, if the stock market, for example, keeps moving negatively, it could be that Bitcoin literally just follows out this exact little scenario right here to just continue on towards, let's say, about $25,000 as it just ranges upwards potentially a little bit as the stock market goes for a relief rally or something, but then goes to 20,000 as time moves on. But let me just add, I don't expect that to happen to Bitcoin. I honestly expect that the moment that we do get one bigger dip, that it's going to be time for a crazy relief rally where it goes to about 30,000 or so, because it's been a little while since that has happened. So I guess watch the media as well. Many people are trying to call out the bottom, and we've seen Jim Cramer. Again, I don't trust that man's words. I don't value it in any way, shape, or form. Whenever he says something, I usually like to do the exact opposite. But I guess one of the things which he does as well is this, like, sort of predicting for the sake of going with the most likely option. If there's a bull market going on, he says, well, prices are going to go up and up and up and up forever. And if there's a bear market going on, he says, well, at some point or another, the prices have to go back up. Which I guess is rather smart, because people always like you. You know, the lower the prices go, every time you keep saying like, oh, well, it's going to return soon, people can't really not like you for that. If we were to say, no, things are going to keep crashing, a lot of his earlier predictions look stupid. But in there's also a little bit of just logical truth, I guess, where at some point it's going to turn back around. We all believe in crypto. We know it's about to, we know it's staying, basically. So all we have to do is find the right moment to buy the majority of it. But I'm looking for a couple of short-term trades, and I've just shown to you guys what I'm going to do on the short term. Long term, I'm just buying like a madman and holding. Alright guys, and then one last thing I should tell you is if you have not made yourself an account over on Bybit just quite yet, it's not loading in properly because again it's 35, I think maybe it's even 36 degrees right now. It is crazy hot. I'm sweating like a little baby. I'm looking at my little tummy right there. Man, it's very hot right now. But I wanted to say there's an $8 million competition coming up. It is ending rather shortly. What I mean with that is the registration period. If you've not made yourself an account just quite yet, you can get up to $5,000 worth of bonuses. Where you can find those, I think if you go right here, all right, go to this little section right here after you've made yourself an account, go to the rewards hub, and you'll actually find all the information you need regarding what type of bonuses you can get. And sometimes it's also just a $10, $100, or whatever that you can grab for absolutely free for just being part, which I recommend you guys to check out. I'm also going to be doing a giveaway specifically for people who have joined my team, because the more people that are in my team, the more likely we are to win. And if we win, then our prize pool, which can be up to $6 million, gets split over the team. And it's a team-based competition. So the more people we have, the more of a chance you have. Then again, there's also a couple other things. If you're part of the team, you can actually get yourself a couple of raffles here. So just like every time you get a chance, whenever you trade like a couple $100 or so, I don't remember exactly, you get to just go for a little lucky draw, which, might turn out to be a really cool NFT. Every single time you get at least $1, I think, or so. But just all I can say about it is go ahead and check it out. It's very much worth it. Bybit is my baby. With this competition, it's going to be crazy. It's going to start really, really soon. I think it might also start in a couple of days already. Then the registration end in a couple of days. Whatever. Just check it out. Link is down below. Thousands of dollars worth of bonuses for absolutely free. And just check out the links down below for that. And I'll see you guys again in another crypto video later today.